success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the hit streak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I got an extra special treat joining me in the Hit Lab today. Folks, if you're a baseball fan, and you are, or you should be, I've got the assistant strength and conditioning coach for arguably one of the greatest programs in the history of college baseball. Folks, he's the assistant strength and conditioning coach for the Vanderbilt University baseball team, the VandyBoys. Help me welcome Hunter Reeser. Brother, thanks for hanging today, man.
I appreciate you having me, Nick. Big fan, been listening for quite some time, especially to the Hitstreak podcast, and it's definitely a blessing to be here.
Brother, he's batting 1,000. He's batting 1,000. That's the first one of the day. Well, dude, like seriously, folks. And by the way, check him out on Instagram at coach.reeser. Hunter, you're 25 years old. All right. How in the world did you end up on the staff of the VandyBoys?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. I'd have to take it back to my childhood days. You know, baseball was always at the top tier of the sports that we played. And, you know, I was blessed with two great parents who made a lot of sacrifices, you know, for myself and for my brother to, you know, play the game that we love. You know, they sacrificed so many days of not going to work, you know, raising money to fund us, you know, to go out and play summer ball or travel baseball. And baseball always just stuck with me. And I grew up in a family where baseball is very rich in history. My grandfather played, my dad played, and then my great-grandfather was actually part of the Philadelphia Phillies organization for quite some time. So I knew baseball was going to be a role in my life. I just didn't know to what capacity, whether that was a baseball player or a coach. So ended up playing college baseball at both the Division I and Division II level, played very competitively there, and then shifted into the role of, you know, wanting to be a strength and conditioning coach and wanted to keep my focus on baseball. And I'm so grateful that I was able to, you know, get on a staff here at Vanderbilt. It's one of only staffs out there that does it the way they do it. And I'm just extremely grateful and blessed to be in the opportunity and position that I'm in right now.
No doubt. So, like, what was the interview process like? Seriously, like, so where'd you come from before? Where were you at before you were?
So I was up at Springfield College up in Springfield, Massachusetts. I was actually in my graduate program up there, getting my master's degree in strength and conditioning. They have one of the best programs in the nation, and the networks and the coaches that are out there in strength and conditioning field, majority of them come from Springfield or have some connect from Springfield. So I knew that after my undergrad degree, I knew I wanted to go do that because I knew I was going to develop as a coach, develop as a person, and then hopefully put me in a position that I'm in right now. So that's where I came from. And then, you know, this position opened up, I believe in February of 22. And it popped up on my LinkedIn and I was like, this is a no-brainer. I have to, you know, apply for this thing. And went through a couple rounds of the interview process, talked to all the coaching staff, support staff, and then obviously Coach Corbin. And I was kind of starstruck when I was on the interview call with him.
No kidding.
Over the computer, just because he's been a coach that has been doing so well for the past 2 decades in college baseball. And, you know, I had Vanderbilt hats growing up when I was a little youngster, you know, playing the game of baseball. And I was like, wow, he's really on the other end of this computer right now. And I'm having a, you know, normal conversation with him. And then came down here in March. They flew me down for an in-person interview. Thought I connected really well with everyone. And next thing you know, they called me about 2 weeks later and told me I had the job, and I was ecstatic. I mean, it was a dream come true.
So there's few moments in life where you get those phone calls. You remember them like they're milestone moments in your life. It's crazy. The older you get, I think that's where a lot of the holidays came from. Like, this is totally false, and I'm totally making this up, but I feel like at some point in time, people were getting older, you know, hundreds of years ago, and they're like, you know, we need to put some things in place so we can remember what happened with our kids and stuff. Like, I don't remember a Wednesday, but I do remember Thanksgiving and Christmas and Halloween and Valentine's Day and anniversaries and birthdays and all that type of stuff. You know, I remember, so they're a great reason to pause. And I remember I can still visualize sitting in the clubhouse or standing over the coach in Kenosha, Wisconsin when I signed my first professional contract to play. I can still remember going into Coach Ryan Gray's office at Trevecca when I signed my intent to play baseball there. I can remember all those moments. I remember my first game as a freshman in high school, and I hit 2 home runs in my very first game as a freshman, which was unheard of, right? I remember certain things, but I couldn't tell you what I ate on like for lunch, or I didn't eat lunch last Wednesday. I don't do that. But what I ate for dinner last Wednesday, I couldn't tell you what that was. You're always going to remember that moment.
Absolutely. And, I still think about it today because I remember it very vividly. I was sitting in my bedroom and they kind of had mentioned that they were going to, be in contact with me in the next couple of days. I just didn't know when. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in my bedroom. I think I'm working on my computer, doing some strength and conditioning stuff that we do. And the phone rings and it's a Nashville, Tennessee number. And I was like, all right, group yourself together, like take some deep breaths, then answered the phone. And it was Brooks Webb, who was the chief of staff at the time. And he told me that they wanted to move forward and they gave me the position. And I was ecstatic. I had to take a moment to kind of just gather my thoughts and let them know. But I think I was so excited that I was like, I'm taking it. Like, I want it. And I remember that day, very vividly, or very, I know it very well. And since that moment, that was the starting point of, my strength and conditioning career. So like you said, I mean, it's those moments in life that you don't take for granted and you'll remember them for the rest of your life.
I guarantee you remember your first day with the players.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just cool how your mind will mark certain moments and catalog those, and you remember them forever. It's
Absolutely.
Cool. You know what I mean? It's cool. I still remember the first time I ever saw my wife. I still remember that day. Like, I could still see it right now sitting here. You know what I mean? I can still remember holding my kids the first time. It's just awesome. And those life experiences are amazing. But so you saw an ad on LinkedIn. Now, this is right there is where most people lose. They don't take the next step. They just assume, well, I couldn't get that. I've come from this little school. There's probably 15 reasons that you could rattle off right now why you shouldn't have got the job, but they didn't matter because what you did is you named 15 reasons why you should get the job. You know what I'm saying? So talk to me about that experience right there, because it took some confidence.
Yeah,
right?
No, absolutely. Like I said, when, the job was posted on LinkedIn and I saw it, I had my notifications on for LinkedIn, jobs, because I was at that point now too in the second year of my master's degree. So I had a couple months left, of graduate school. So I knew I had to start that, job process. And, I had the notifications on all the time and popped up on my phone. It was like Vanderbilt baseball. And I was like, you're kidding. And I hopped on it right away because I knew, obviously, if you didn't try and take the chance, you'll never know. And that's one of the biggest chances that I took, and I'm forever grateful that I did. And, during that process too, you do a lot of thinking about what value can you bring this staff that they haven't had before. And, as a 23-year-old at the time, I was still trying to figure that out myself. That's why I was at the program that I was up in Springfield, because it's such a great program that, you're going there to coach, to teach athletes, and doing that at 22 and 23 years old, straight out of college, is, pretty hard at times. And I learned a lot about myself. And that was some of the thoughts and thinking that I had to do, because I knew if this interview process happened, I had to have things that I could bring to the table and present them right away. And, like I said, I learned a lot about myself. I learned, how to think outside the box and bring value to, the coaches, so that we could move that program forward in terms of strength and conditioning, everything like that. And Chris Ham, who was the head strength coach at the time, who got bumped up to now a supervisor level, and then Walker Gersani slid into the head position. They did a great job there prior to, and Walker's still there now as the head guy. So working with him and working with Chris Ham has been monumental for my growth as well. And I'm forever grateful that, they took the chance on a 23-year-old kid from Reading, Pennsylvania, who's, fresh out of grad school.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. We talk a lot about proximity, and for me, the first time I learned about proximity, I didn't really understand it, and it was in pro ball. Well, I learned about proximity as a kid. They were like, "Hey, don't hang out with that guy; he's going to get you in trouble." Right? That was about as far as it went. But in pro ball, there was some guys that, like, might have been struggling with our squad, they would get traded to another place and just light it up right out of the gate. Same guy, 48-hour difference, maybe, totally different ball player. And I remember I asked my pitching coach, I was like, how does that work? He said, change of scenery. He just basically said proximity. He's surrounded by different people, totally different vibe, totally different energy, right? Totally different structure, everything. Everything you see is different. It broke the pattern that was not working for him, right? So obviously you're in some unbelievable company and you're getting paid to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I want to know about the growth that you've had before we get into all the other stuff. Like, you've been there how many years now?
Going on year 2.
You going on year 2. So talk to me about like how you've changed in those 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's been unbelievable. And obviously I've mentioned earlier that I listened to this podcast when Coach Corbin was on here about 4 to 5 times, because it's just one of those podcasts that you could listen to over and over again. And I'm extremely grateful that I get to witness that on a daily basis, right? I show up to work and he's there and he's, teaching in the classroom, teaching out on the field, just the things about life that people take for granted that really don't understand. And to be able to witness it firsthand is something that I'll never forget. And it's something that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. But you talk about growth. So, I definitely grew a lot when I was at Springfield College, and I'm forever grateful for, Dr. Brian Thompson, Adam Feit, and Mary Kate Feit, who are all in charge of the strength and conditioning program that they have there. It's a small Division III school. And, they take applicants from all over the world, all over the country. And, I was blessed to be one of maybe 8 strength coaches that they had. And they chose me. And, that development there that I gained set me up for, what I was getting here at Vanderbilt. And, forever grateful for them. But then when I got here, I didn't realize how competitive SEC baseball is and the amount of work and the grind that you need to do to be able to succeed at such a high level. And Coach Corbin demonstrates that on a daily basis, right? There's not a day that he takes for granted. I mean, he's in there every single day working on different things, just trying to form, the players that we have now into men, right? Because the game's bigger than baseball.
Amen.
It's more about the game of life. And I've never experienced that from a coach before, right? I was a baseball player in college, and I think we got so focused on baseball itself and the player, right? But we never really focused on, the personal growth and us being, 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, and then turning us into men. And he takes a huge component of that and just transfers that to our players on a daily basis. And you can just see the growth too from the guys that are in the MLB, the former players that are now entrepreneurs, whatever it is. I mean, if it wasn't for Coach Corbin and the life lessons that he taught them, they may be in that position, but they may not be. And I think that's one of the most important things that I've learned is there's a lot more to the game than the game of baseball itself. It's more about the game of life, and he does an unbelievable job teaching that.
Let's hang right there for a minute. Let's talk to the parents of the up and coming next VandyBoys and all those future college athletes. Like we coach a very competitive travel team, and there's hundreds of kids that try out for the 3 teams in our age group. It's kind of crazy. And, as a parent myself, I want my son to go into a place where he can grow. It's like for me, like the school team that he plays on, he's homeschooled. Or he's in a hybrid school, but it's basically a homeschool curriculum, which means he has other programs open to him than kids that go to school every day. So we get to choose. We had some choices that not every parent gets, which at the end of the day, like, you're a reflection. Where you're at right now is a reflection of all the choices you've made to that date, right? To present. So we're making choices. And for us, I just want to make sure that the filtration process that we use is exactly what you just said. It's more than baseball, right? It's more than baseball.
Absolutely.
And so let's pour into those parents of all the way down to the 8-year-old kids up and coming 8U, all the way up to the kids for 17 and 18. When they're trying to pick the program to play, you're talking to the parents and those 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, and they pick the program where they're going to go. The part about becoming a man, a good man, not a nice man, a good man.
Yeah.
Bro, that's not a part of the decision-making process.
Yeah, it's not. And I think that's what we need to kind of get back to. I was talking the other day to someone about what are the things that like I looked for, when I was a high school player and wanting to play at that next level. And number one was academics. I think that's the most important part, because baseball is not going to last forever, and you're going to have a backup plan. And forever, how long you play baseball, that's great if you have a really long career, but life's going to, happen, and, baseball is not going to be there one day. So you have to set yourself up first with what you want to do with life after baseball. And I think academics is so important. And then the second one was, are you going to a school where you know that you're going to develop, number one, as a baseball player, but also as a human being in general, right? And are you going to turn yourself into, from an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, teenager, into a man when you leave? And I think that's the most important, that often gets overlooked in the world we live in today. So, I mean, for me, when I was looking in that interview or the college process of trying to find a school, I don't think I was looking at that, because a lot of growth has happened since 18 years old trying to find a college until now. Right? I learned a lot, and I don't want high schoolers to make the same mistake I did and not look for places that, number one, you're going to be able to go play baseball. They're going to have what you want to do, with life after baseball. And then obviously the coaching staff and the teammates that you're with, are you going to blend well with them? And are they going to, give you the best opportunity to become a better version of yourself? So those are the big things that, I think we need to focus on. Number one, as parents can really help their, children with that. But I think too, if, you have athletes listening to this podcast, personal experience coming from me, being in their shoes at one point, I think is really instrumental.
I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends, and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. Just to the parents in our organization, guys, in only 9 years, our kids are going to be his age, and look where he's at. And you got to ask yourself, is that the trajectory that they're on? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've got some kids that the parents empower them to do everything. Like, hey man, if the kids are going to be, if they're going to be late to practice, the kids will be the one that let me know. And I've got some kids that parents do everything for them. The one where the kid is getting the experience is the best. You know what I'm saying? And I know that it's something that I have to check myself on a daily basis. And the reason that I help mine out too much when I do is it's usually because of time. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but like, again, that experience of learning, it's worth the few extra minutes. And that's the hardest thing, is I tend to overbook myself. I'm spread pretty thin. And, so sometimes it's faster to just do it for them. But again, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man a fish, he eats forever, right? So absolutely. That's the thing. And I know that when we were picking Ethan's school program this year, it was, what's he going to be exposed with? And more importantly, like, what kind of life does the coach live? What values does the coach have? Proximity is everything. Ethan's going to be spending a significant amount of time with those people. Is he going to go backwards or forwards in his journey? You know what I mean? So talk to me about the level of baseball player you get to work with.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the SEC is a different animal. The baseball players that we work with are unbelievable at what they do, but at the same time, Coach Corbin recruits players who are going to fit well into the program, and they come in as great human beings to start, and the growth that that occurs during their time here even elevates them even more. So I'm extremely grateful with the opportunity to work with them on a daily basis, because they show up to the weight room every day, out to the baseball field, ready to go and ready to work. And it's one of the only groups that I've ever been a part of that has actually done that. And they bring it every single day. They're present, they're, where their feet are. And, I think we take that for granted sometimes, but, they do everything that they tell you to, or that we tell them to do, and they do it with 110% intent. And that's all that you can ask for.
I've got some kids on my team that when, they're not making eye contact when we're talking to them. And it's funny too, like, the parents, if the coaches that get the kids on a knee or sit them down in the classroom and pour into them, a lot of times the parents think that's a waste of time. That's a baseball team, dude. They're not supposed to be practicing baseball. But just like you said, it's more. It should be more, and it can be more.
Absolutely.
And you know what, man? Like, if I'm good at making sure that my son is around the right people, well, he's going to start to pick that up and carry on that momentum for the rest of his life too, because I want him spending time with the right people. Right. So, all right, man, I'm just so fascinated with, I'm such a huge fan of all you guys and everything you do over there. And Coach Corbin's attention to detail, like, gosh, man, like that's one of these guys here will tell you, I'm that way.
Yeah.
Like
small things matter.
Oh, they're like the little things are the big things. Right. And it's, how efficient is it when it's done that way? You know where everything's at. You don't spend any time looking for something because it's misplaced. Like it's just there's a rhyme and a reason. And if one day's important, every day's important. And it's kind of like when you come in and the first day it's beautiful and then it's never the same after that. Well, dude, every day's the first day.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? All right. So talk to me about what makes what you guys do. And there's some great programs out there, right? You guys are playing against them, and most of the time you're beating them. You know what I mean? So
definitely try.
What makes Coach was telling the stories about how when they get there they don't get Vandy gear at first.
Yeah, that'd be correct.
They don't get the dress in the locker room at first. Like they're I won't say they're treated like peasants. They're still in first class facilities, had they're earning they're earning all those logos and what it means, the uniform. Yeah. Right. So. Had you ever been around anything like that before when you got there?
I have not. And that was one of the coolest things that I've experienced is, he takes the component of everything in life is earned and it's not given. And that's huge. Just in the society that we live in today, I think we may live in a time frame right now where instant gratification is, everybody's trying to get instant gratification, and that long-term approach has kind of taken a back seat. And, I pride myself on having that long-term approach and, working every single day to get what you want out of life. And that's what he teaches, our players, and he teaches our staff as well. Because coming in at 23 years old, I didn't experience any of that before. And to witness it firsthand, it just made me appreciate what I have and what I've been able to do so much more. And I think that's a big thing that when you get 18-year-olds coming into college, they may not realize either. And then when he actually demonstrates it and shows how you can be successful doing this, everybody buys in, and that's what you need for a really successful program. And he's obviously done that for 2 decades now. So
that's right.
Being able to witness it firsthand has been unbelievable, and extremely grateful for it.
Man, what's and you guys got some crazy renovations going on out there. Is any of that going to benefit your department?
Yeah, so I don't really know the blueprint and the layout of everything right now, but I know the university is, putting a lot of money into, bettering all the facilities around the athletics program. And the future looks really bright for Vanderbilt. And we're excited for, what the process is going to look like. And then obviously the outcome that's going to happen on the back end is going to be something that I don't know if any other SEC school is going to have, and I think we're trying to separate ourselves the best we possibly can with, the opponents and the competition, and the plan that they have in place. We're very trustworthy in them, and they're going to bring, a great product to Vanderbilt University in the next couple of years.
How important is it that when players get there, they've got a good foundation in strength and conditioning and growing themselves physically?
Yeah, so I think it's really important. And, you start to see more and more high school athletes with, great frames when they come into college. And that's a testament to the high school strength and conditioning coaches that are out there right now. The field's growing like crazy, and I talk about it all the time. It's nice to see that high schools are funding these programs, these strength and conditioning programs, because it's only going to benefit their players and the athletes that they have coming out of there for the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
So a lot of the guys that we get are, really, really good athletes, and, they've been in the weight room for a couple of years. But you also get some athletes that have never touched a weight in their lives, and that's fine. Because if that was the case everywhere, there wouldn't be any strength and conditioning coaches.
Right.
If they knew what to do all the time, then, what would they need us for? But we make it a really developmental approach to what we do in the weight room, because we don't see them as being there for only 1 year. They're going to be there for 3 to 4 years, and we want to squeeze as much juice out of them as we possibly can.
Right.
So we take a longer approach to how we develop them inside the weight room. We start really slow and make sure that we're getting all the fundamental movements down the way they need to be, so that we can set them up for, 3-4 years down the road whenever, they move on, to play professional baseball or whatever it may be. But I think apart from the strength and conditioning side and, moving heavy weights as fast as you can, I think there's a mindset component that comes into it too. We're going to push them, and it's going to be a long process, in the weight room. They may feel sometimes that, we're taking too slow of an approach, but everything that we do is for a reason. And I think
there's a trust there.
Exactly. And, that mindset shift in them buying into the process and them reaping the rewards, it may not be a year down the road, but it may be 2 to 3 years that's when they're really going to start to see that, change. And I think, we do a great job of getting their buy-in and, gaining their trust, in the weight room. And, we're forever grateful for that, because that makes them enjoy coming to the weight room every day.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what we want. We want it to be a great environment where they know they're going to get bigger, faster, stronger, but at the same time, we're going to have a great time doing it. We'll have the music bumping, all that stuff, just great vibes in there, because, if they're coming in there and they're not wanting to be there, then, they're not going to be getting everything out of it that we want them to. So we want to make that environment, as fun as possible, while also pushing them, to get better.
Well, tell me about that music playlist. I'm kind of intrigued about that. What's on the playlist for the VandyBoys?
We got a little bit of everything, and that's the cool part. There's some days where it's rock themed, and the guys want to listen to rock.
Okay.
Some days they want.
Who picks?
We let the players pick.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
so
which players? Like the seniors?
Anybody.
Okay.
Well, some days we'll have some rock paper scissors contest, who's picking music, and it's whatever they feel, because like I said, we want to make that environment something that they want to be in, and they create that environment by, I think music's number one. I mean, it's huge, because if you're not,
I agree,
if you're not listening to any music working out, it's hard. And if we give them the autonomy to pick what they want to listen to, it just elevates the vibes in the room and the energy in the room, and then that growth is going to exponentially increase. So
there is a lot of science behind the tones and frequencies that music puts out.
Absolutely.
Everything. So I know my son and I, we go back and forth between, we're big, it's either Foo Fighters or Van Halen or like even Toto sometimes. That like it's always something rocking and upbeat. And
it has to be.
Oh man. You know what I mean? You got to get those vibes going.
Yep. Absolutely.
Talk to me more about the mindset. I'm a little bit old school. So, I mean, think about this, guys. 20 years ago, when I was in college, there was a strength and conditioning thing, but like we didn't have an in-house person. There was the coaches had to bring in outside help, and it was a part of the program, but it wasn't all year. It was a small part of the program. And then 20 years before that, you had to sneak to the weight room because you weren't supposed to do it. So like the industry has changed, that field has changed tons, and I'm a little bit old school. So I had this conversation with some of the parents this past week as we were wrapping up our fall season, and they got to learn the difference between hurt and injured. Like hurt you play, injured you don't. But also like if you're hurt all the time, well, that's not interesting to you guys, is it? Like
no,
you know what I'm saying? Like dude, like they're all like you can only get to the next level by playing. And if you're hurt all the time, that's a huge red flag. There's going to be somebody that's as good as you out there, and if they're healthier than you are, they get the deal.
For sure.
They get the deal. Talk to me about the mindset of pushing through those things. And again, man, like I tell my pitchers, let's say you have 25 outings, maybe 3 or 4 times you're going to have everything. It feels great. You got all your pitches, you're dialed in. It's those other games that you actually pitch when you don't have everything and you don't feel the best, and you got to get your team to a certain point in the game to get to the next place.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the mindset.
Yeah, that's extremely important, and it brings up a great point on my end. So my sophomore year of college, I ended up sustaining a shoulder injury that sidelined me for a whole year. And, that was a tough part of my life because I believe I was like 19 years old at the time. And I knew I wasn't going to be playing baseball my sophomore year. So I was down in the dumps, quite a lot. And I think that was a pivotal period of my life where my mindset shifted and kind of, strengthened me from a component of, mindset and, motivation. But there were days where I woke up and I just didn't feel like doing anything. I was down in the dumps because I knew I couldn't compete on the field. I couldn't, help my coaches by playing on the field and whatnot. And, the recovery process is quite lengthy too. I wasn't really feeling 100% for well over a year. So it was quite the journey. And I think through that, it calloused my mind, and, allowed me to see things in a different perspective. And, during that time period, I was thinking about what value can I bring to my teammates and coaches, even though I'm not participating on the field. And I think that was, a big turning point in my life where I knew
that's why you got the job at Vanderbilt. That one statement right there. I'm just telling you.
I hope so.
That's the mindset, bro. I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's huge.
I appreciate that. And that was a turning point in my life where I knew I wanted to take this coaching thing to another level. And I was at school to be a meteorologist, so I needed to make that shift. Yeah, so fascinated with the weather and all that. So
well, you were prone for it as a great baseball player. You get out like 60 to 70% of the time. It's about the same track record as the weatherman.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I was fascinated with that at high school, and that's why I went to Fairleigh Dickinson University for my first 2 years. But following that injury, just the rehab process and being in the weight room, being in the training room almost every single day, just strengthening my body and my mind so that I could get back to the field is what made me want to shift into more of a coaching role, and strength and conditioning happened to be it. So then went to Westchester University, got my degree there. But like you had mentioned too, and there's athletes that get injured all the time. And I think that's the cool thing about the experiences that I had. But now being able to relate to the players that I have that are experiencing injuries as well, right? Because, they're playing at the SEC level and they want to be out there on the field.
Right.
And if they can't, then they need somebody to kind of mentor them and, be alongside their journey, because I know how it felt, being an athlete, being injured and being sidelined for a year. And I don't want them to experience that, right? So I want to be, a value to them and be by their side as much as I possibly can, so that that process isn't as hard on them and we can get them back on the field, in a quicker fashion.
The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more. Walk me through, I don't know, a little bit of the science on how you guys, like what the process looks like on how you're developing, the program. How unique is it to each individual? And again, another thing, a former player, career-ending injury at the end of the day, right? So we say it all the time. Something I got from my friends over at Brand Builders Group. You're most uniquely positioned to help the person that you used to be.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So walk me through a little bit of like you learned a lot of lessons there. There's a track record at Vanderbilt that you get there too, right? You're walking into a well-oiled machine.
For sure.
So walk me through like what is it like? How you guys have a fall season? Then there's something between the fall and the spring, and then what does the programs look like throughout those seasons? Yeah.
So when they come into the fall, it's more of especially for our freshmen coming in, it's a developmental program, right? So we're pretty much starting from ground zero. We want to make sure that they're moving well and that they get stronger in those ranges of motion, so that in the next couple of months or the next year, we can progress them and get them ready to, reap the benefits, 2 years, 3 years down the road. And that's exactly what our program, does. And that's the approach that we take. But you talk about it. So we have a fall season. Then we'll have a preseason, which is, anywhere from January to the start of, the actual season itself. And then you have...
When it's 20 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the spring season that could go all the way till June. So the philosophy and the science behind it all is very similar in nature. I think you obviously have more time with them during the fall, and you can, lift heavier, you can lift more frequently. So that's what we do. And then obviously when you get into the season, it's a little more difficult because you're on the road quite some time.
Right.
A lot of travel days in between. Midweek games could be 1 to 2 midweek games, a week. And then obviously on the weekend you're playing. So you could be playing 5 days a week for, 3-week stretch. And that takes a toll on the body. So we want to make sure that the program that we have set is covering all the foundations that they need to, stay bigger, faster, stronger during the season. But at the same time, we want to
maintain.
Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we're not pushing them really hard in the weight room if they're getting all those exposures on the field, because that'll lead to injury. So there may be days too where we have them come up and we just do a recovery, session where they foam roll, they do some soft tissue work. We'll work on breathing too. So what we'll do is
stay there. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll turn the lights off. We'll put on some like really calming music, just to ease their mind and, get them relaxed in a relaxed position, relaxed state. And we'll do that for like 10 minutes and, we'll have guys fall asleep just because they've been doing so much. Their workload's really high and they kind of need that reset. So we'll do stuff like that. We try to do as much unique things as possible so that they're staying fresh and their mind's staying fresh as well. And I think that's really important when you have such a long season. The body wears down, but you have to keep the mind sharp and you have to keep the mind really strong. So we try to implement that in the weight room so that it can translate to the field.
Man, that's awesome. So again, if I brought all those kids into a place and laid them down for nap time, you know what I mean? Played the music and all stuff, parents would be pissed at me. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's, again, it's just, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
But obviously you guys are doing it, so it matters.
Absolutely. Like I said, there's a reason behind everything that we do. We're not just going to do things out there that we see, on the internet or on social media just to do them. We want to make sure that we put our players in positions to succeed. And if that means that we need to take a 10-minute break and play some calming music so that they can reset their mind and get ready for training, then that's what we're going to do. Because if it benefits them, that's all that matters. And I think that's the cool part about being a strength and conditioning coach is you're playing with different ideas all the time and you're working on the fly because no program that you have is going to be perfect. You're always going to have to change something. We'll write out these 4-week programs, but probably 25% of the time we would actually follow it all the way through.
Wow.
There's going to be 75% chance out there that we're going to have to change something. And that's the cool part about the position that we're in.
That's a great point. You guys have a program, but every year you have different people in it.
Absolutely.
And you have to custom tailor it to that. Every one of your players, there's only one of them. They're 100% unique. And you have to be able to bring the best out of them, So like I was a guy that by today's standards, they would say he throws too much. Bro, I threw year round for 20 years and I never had it. I still don't have an arm problem. I can go throw BP for hours right now.
That's impressive.
You know what I mean? I worked out as hard during the season as I did because for me, it just worked. It just worked. Flexibility wasn't always the greatest, but it was good enough, especially as a catcher. I was really good at the movements that I had to have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And my son's a little bit that way. We throw year round, and now he's finally got to a place where I'm going to admit something I've never said before, and that's we long toss now with a bucket of balls because he throws it to me and I drop it in the bucket because I can't throw it as far as he can anymore.
I feel you on that one.
We've got to that place. But how different is the program year to year just because the players are so different?
Yeah, so I mean, the framework that we have, we try to keep it, very similar in nature in terms of what I mean by just like developing our athletes, and picturing it in a 3 to 4 year span and not just, a 1 year thing, right? We want to make sure that when they sign up to come to Vanderbilt, that they're getting the development that they need to succeed at the next level. And whether that be playing baseball or that be life in general, that's our main goal. So the program itself doesn't change much, but we're obviously continuing to learn new things every day. We're evolving. And I don't think if you're not evolving as a human being, then you're not getting the most out of life and what it has to offer. And I think that's a huge point that, we want to emphasize is there's new ways out there that we can get our guys bigger, faster, stronger. So when we come across those things, we'll experiment them on ourselves, right? Because we don't want to put our players into positions that we've never been into.
Right.
Right. And I think that's really important because we want to experience that before we give it to them. And if it's something that we've done and we don't feel like it's worth it, then we're not going to program it. So the programs and individual programs do change from year to year just because guys will get bigger, faster, and stronger, and they may need more of one stimulus than the other.
Right.
And I think, as they get older into the program 2 to 3 years down the road, if you're doing the same stuff you did year one, you're not benefiting them in year 3, right? So the programs change according to where they're at as a player, but the framework of how we have everything laid out stays pretty much very similar in nature, but individualized, as many guys as we possibly can. And I think the cool thing about individualizing programs is some guys are going to be injured, right? So if that does occur, a lot of times you'll see guys that get injured and they just stop training. Right? That's probably the worst thing you could do.
Right.
You need to continue to build your body and build your mindset, during an injury, like I had mentioned myself. So, we'll have programs for guys with injured legs or injured arms. Like they still up there with the team, getting better. And, that's a really important part of what we do.
Man, consistency is so important, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Gosh. All right, let me get back to my list of questions over here. So, and by the way, is there anything, this is one of the coolest things about having guys like you is there's so many ways you could take this sucker, you know what I mean? So
for sure,
if there's any direction that you'd like to go with me, we're going there, baby. We're going there. So, talk to me a little bit about Reeser Performance.
Yeah. So, I made it a mission to, start my Instagram, profile and platform last New Year's. I wanted to, reach coaches and reach players that may have never had a coach that, was just teaching them the fundamentals of strength and conditioning. And by no means did I expect it to kind of take off the way it did. Just with all the feedback from coaches and players, seeing that, made me want to create, as much content as I could, because I knew that the people out there and the people that are supporting me need some guidance in terms of, strength and conditioning and baseball in general. So I've kind of found that niche of, being obviously a baseball strength and conditioning coach and being able to relate with players and coaches that were once in my shoes. So I started Reeser Performance, to be able to create programs and different things for, individuals or coaches who may need it, for their team specifically, so that they can get the best development for, their players or themselves.
So they can work with you right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what's the best way if they wanted to inquire about that?
I would just say my Instagram, at coach.reeser. They have everything that they would need to see on there. I'm constantly putting out new content just to, show them, the ins and outs of strength and conditioning and how to, elevate their performance, on a daily basis. So
that's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about so obviously, at 25 years old, there's, I guess at the collegiate level, there's not a whole lot of places to go up from, from where you're at right now. I mean, there is, but there's not, so, where the GPS only works if you typed in the end destination, when I started this podcast, it was because I wanted on Sirius XM one day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, in every business we've ever started, we started with the exit, you know what I mean? And then worked backwards from there.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, obviously when you were looking for an opportunity when you got the one here at Vanderbilt, and you might have had, let's say you ended up somewhere else. Again, what's the future hold for a guy like Hunter?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing I've never heard. You start with the exit and then work backwards. I've always kind of just thought about, it's not necessarily about the destination, but about the journey to get there. But I really, really like that. I don't really think about it too much, just because I like to stay present in the moment, and opportunities will come. And when those opportunities come, you taking it day by day and just stacking days on days is going to allow you to be in that position. And when the right opportunity comes, you jump on it. But there's a lot of really good programs out there. I mean, you got college, you got professional.
Is the professional rank something that you might want to get into one day?
It definitely could be something that I'd want to get into. Like I said, I haven't put too much thought in it, just because I'm solely focused on the athletes and, the staff and support staff that we have at Vanderbilt. And I think that's the most important part is, I'm involved with a group of people that are like-minded and very determined to be the best version of themselves every day. And I don't take that for granted. And, when the opportunities arise, then, I'll think about it. But like I said, I haven't put too much thought into it, just because I'm really focused on the journey and not necessarily the destination at the moment.
Shoot, I can think of a lot worse things that could happen to you than, you know what I'm saying, working your way up through the ranks at Vanderbilt and staying there for a few decades. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a pretty good story if you ask me. That's awesome. You know, one of the things that Coach Corbin and I talked about it with Lipscomb coach Jeff Forehand, Belmont coach Dave Jarvis, and it was something that I struggled with for a good 10 years after playing is like, who the heck am I after baseball? And you alluded to it a little bit in your former players. You guys got a lot of guys in the professional ranks, but there's more that don't go to play at the next level, that go out and they're the next level of businessman, entrepreneur, fathers, husbands, all that kind of stuff, right? So I feel like you guys do a really good job of preparing them. I feel like there's less of a learning curve. I could be wrong, but like with your guys when they exit into the next phase of life that they go into, their next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the program that Coach Corbin built here is one of a kind, because you don't see it anywhere else. Like I said, he focuses solely on the person you are and the growth that's going to occur while you're here at Vanderbilt. Number one, as a human being, and then baseball on top of it. You know, that's like the icing on the cake. And he sets every single player up that comes through here with the mindset that, you know, baseball is going to end one day. And what are you going to do right now to make sure that your life after baseball is successful? And, you know, Coach Corbin will help every single former player out, every player that's there now, to get them in a position to succeed in life. And I think that's one of the most important things that I've noticed, you know, just being able to work with him, you know, these past 2 years, is he wants you to succeed in life. And that's one of the most important things that you can ask of for a coach.
Well, it's, you know, again, for me, it was a total identity crisis. You know what I'm saying? And it was like my last game was my last game. I didn't know it was my last game when I played it. You know what I mean? That's the crazy thing. And it took me a better part of a decade to figure out who the heck I was after that, or actually like who I was as a player, but just not on the field. And the crazy thing is all the life lessons were programmed within me. I just didn't know how to access them, right? The application was the part that I was missing. It wasn't the program that I came through. What Jeff Forehand did for me as a player at Trevecca, and what Trevecca did for me as an institution, instilled a lot of things that I use today. The only problem was I didn't start using them for a decade. You know what I mean? And that was after I'd been out of college and playing pro ball 5 or 6 years. So it was really like 15 years. How are you guys getting your guys, your former players to make those changes so quick? You know what I mean? It's obviously something you're instilling them in all the seasons you play together.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts in the classroom, and you know, the life lessons that Coach Corbin teaches there, because they write everything down in a notebook, and then that notebook is with them for the rest of their lives.
Wow.
And you know, as a player, I wish I had that, because you know, the lessons that he's taught, if I would have had them 3 years ago, I couldn't even imagine what I would have been able to do with, you know, those kind of notes. And I think that's the really big, you know, turning point in a lot of these guys, you know, professional careers as a baseball player, but then their professional careers as, you know, their jobs and whatever they're doing, is they always look back at those notes and take something new from it every single day and apply it to, you know, whatever situation they're in, you know, whether that be at their house with their family, you know, in the workspace, whatever it is. But it's those lessons that carry so deeply and carry them, you know, far in life. And that was another thing that when I got here was something that was really special to me and kind of hit home, because I never had an experience like that. And to witness it firsthand and be able to write notes myself that I still look back at, you know, almost on a weekly basis, has been instrumental for my growth as well. So I can only imagine what it's doing for an 18, 19-year-old kid.
Wow.
The Hitstreak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com.
So I think this is going to be a really, really powerful little segment right here. And this is because of the education that the parents will get to hear this, because you've mentioned all the time in the classroom, all the time in the weight room. What I can tell you from the teenagers this day, they spend the majority of their time growing as a baseball player on the field or in a cage, you know what I mean, or in a lesson. All right, so break down for me if you can. I've got them. There might be more categories, but I've got time on the field. Okay, that would include practice, games, all that. Team building stuff. All right, Coach told the story about how he told everybody, just walked in one day and said, hey, we're leaving. Put your phones in a box. We're going to a cabin and all that stuff. Team building versus classroom and weight room. How would you break? Is there any other things that I'm forgetting that you guys are? And that's team classroom. That's not even classes. You know what I mean? So obviously there's family. This is just baseball stuff. There's other things they got to do, but just stuff within your program. Is there anything else besides time on the field, team building, classroom, and weight room?
No, those are the main components of what we do, obviously. And then, their personal life outside of it, with the classroom schedule that they have, for Vanderbilt, is really tough. And, to be able to
That's right.
manage their time the way they do on top of everything that we do as a baseball program, is pretty incredible. And I've never seen that before, with college athletes. They're just built different, and they're meant to be at Vanderbilt, and they're meant to be SEC baseball players.
So what would be, if you had to break it down, like would it be 25% evenly spread across? Like how do you feel that is? And you might say, well, during the season it's this, but during the fall it's this. I just want the parents to understand how those, like the team building, the classroom stuff, just learning the game, learning life, and then what you do in the weight room to train, all the way down to what you eat and what you put in your body. Those are not priorities in the path of the baseball player right now, for the young baseball player. So how would you break down, obviously it's not going to be exact, but just ballparking it, how would you break down how you guys spend your time together?
Yeah, I would say split it pretty evenly across those components there. Yeah. I mean, we take a approach, to each one of those components that you had mentioned. And, you also talked about the nutrition and the sleep habits that they go through. That's really important too.
Well, let's stay there for a minute. Let's educate.
Because I think, everybody sees what they're doing, on a daily basis, whether it be in the weight room, on the field, in the classroom, but they don't understand the habits and the determination that they need to, number one, fuel their body properly and also get enough sleep, right? Their schedule is jam-packed, so they have a lot going on. And they do a great job of taking advantage of, some time off when they need to get extra sleep. And that's so important for high school athletes, college athletes, whoever it may be, right? You're going to train hard, but you need to recover harder. And that recover harder comes from
That's awesome.
the nutrition, the sleep habits, hydration, all that stuff. So, a part of our weight room program, we have a sports nutritionist at Vanderbilt too that works with us hand in hand on making sure that some guys need some more protein, maybe some guys need some more carbs, right? So we're constantly in contact with her, making sure that we're putting our guys in the best position so that when they leave the facility, they can take care of themselves and be ready to go the next day.
That was something that I learned a lot about myself as and it's crazy too, because there's a lot of misconceptions about nutrition out there today, and a lot of what we eat on a daily basis just ain't that good for you. You know what I mean? So for me, I'll show you a picture when we're done. Not that long ago, I was 50 pounds heavier. All right. So as a player, dude, when I took off, my main goal is first day of spring training. When I took off my shirt, everybody's like, dang, who's that? And that guy works hard. You know what I mean? I made a statement the first time I took off my shirt. And then when I quit playing, my diet didn't change much, but everything else did. And over the course of a few years, I gained about 50 pounds. And bro, I was sloppy, and my wife is a saint for staying. You know what I mean? But the difference between me is obviously, fitness is something that's a commitment that I made, and I found the better my commitment to fitness was, the further I could go in business and everything else. For me, that was just like a litmus test on everything else that I was doing, and it's a huge part of my life. But for me, and everybody's different, but fasting works big time for me. I only eat once a day. I eat dinner and that's it. And and I love fruit. And I am addicted to sugar, right? Like everybody else is. But like in the past 30 days ain't been good. I ain't gonna lie. There's Halloween and vacation, and I had a birthday, and there's still birthday cake at the house. And it's delicious. But fasting for me was, I started out fasting like 16 hours, and then it's down to 1 meal a day. And I can pretty much, I'm lighter than I was in high school even. But I feel so much better. My performance, my sleep, getting up and how my back feels when I get up based on what I ate the night before, bro, it's huge. It is huge. Now, those are magnified at 43 years old. And at 21, or even my son that's 14, he don't feel any of those things, right? So what advice would you give on the nutrition for all these up-and-coming players? Because you guys probably have a lot of reworking to do.
Yeah, so I mean, from the nutrition side of things, we don't spend too much time because we obviously have a sports nutritionist that handles all that stuff. So we try to stay in our lane in terms of that. But I think just some general guidelines for athletes, looking to get to that next level in terms of getting their body prepared to play collegiate baseball or whatever it may be. I think the biggest thing is, eating healthy whole foods, talking about, red meat, chicken, whatever it may be, vegetables, clean carbohydrates, healthy fats. If you get a solid foundation there, you're setting yourself up. You're probably doing what 95% of others aren't doing, right? So you're setting yourself apart right there. And that's extremely important if you want to make it to the next level. And then obviously
it's a discipline too.
Absolutely. And then next thing is, just making sure you're hydrated every day. Everybody talks about drinking a gallon of water, and that's really simple to do, right? I mean, it's a simple concept. It's hard to do, I should say.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of water, but the more and more you do it, you get into a habit, you get into a routine, and, it comes like nothing,
That's right.
And then one of the biggest ones is going to be sleep. Getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep, especially when you're at that high school age where your body's still growing, you need as much sleep as you can, because that's where recovery and that's where growth occurs, right? Everybody thinks the growth occurs in the weight room right away, but that growth occurs outside of the weight room when you're sleeping, when you're eating right, and when you're hydrating right. And I think that gets often overlooked. So those are the three big things that I would say, kind of from a nutrition or recovery standpoint, that all athletes should really focus on. And I guarantee that if you follow those concepts, they're very simple concepts, but if you follow them to a T, you're setting yourself up to have a really good career at the collegiate level and whatever sport it may be.
I mean, folks, there's literally 3 choices of gasoline when you get to the pump. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, dude. It's right in front of you all day, every day. And if you put the wrong one in, I've seen what happens when you put diesel in one that ain't supposed to have diesel. You know what I'm saying? It don't perform real good. It definitely don't perform real good. And the highest performance vehicles usually require the highest grade of gas. So wouldn't you say the highest performance of human needs the highest performance of the highest grade of nutrition?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're not going to put, low grade gasoline in a Ferrari, right?
You shouldn't.
Yeah. Some people may though,
Yeah.
So you got to treat your body like a temple. And the only way to be able to sustain that is to, make sacrifices and, put proper nutrients in your body. It may be hard at times, but those days that are really hard and you push through them are the ones where the most growth occurs.
Well, man, as we when having a guy like you on, it takes I carry a great responsibility, because, like, again, there's so much knowledge. I mean, for goodness sakes, how there's tens of thousands, if not more, high school baseball players out there that would give anything to be a fly on the wall for at anything that the VandyBoys do, and like we get to pour into them and give them a little bit of a sneak peek, so to say, into how you guys do your stuff. Is there anything like that we missed, or anything that you'd like to bring up or mention to make sure that we get all the knowledge and all the information out that's needed today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I always come back to is just consistency, right? If you're staying consistent on a daily basis and you have your mind set on a single goal that you want to accomplish, it's to wake up every day and attack it with a tenacious attitude. And when you do that, you're going to compound days on days on days, and then your breakthrough is going to be down the road. It may not happen overnight, but it may occur 5 to 10 years down the road, but at least you understand that the process to get there was worth it. And at times you may feel like giving up, and a lot of people do give up, unfortunately, but those days where you feel like giving up is where the most growth occurs. And that's what allows them to succeed down the road. So it's just it's staying consistent with your behaviors, your actions, everything that you do on a daily basis. And I can testament to myself, and as an example, I try to attack every day the best I possibly can. And I would say do the same thing for athletes too if you want to play at that next level.
Amen. All right, so two more things. One, so I was telling one of the players yesterday that respect is earned. It's not given to you, right? You got to earn it. So tell me about, so every freshman that walks on campus, they're going to go out there. Some of them earn respect, and some of them it might take a little longer, right? So how old were you when you got the Vanderbilt gig again?
I was 23.
So there was kids on the team older than you.
They weren't older, but they were relatively close. Yeah.
That's almost the same age. So obviously, dude, how did that, tell me about how that went? Like, what was that experience like? So I had Chase Gerbrick in here not long ago. He's the youngest in his position in college baseball, in the history of college baseball that we know about, right? And player development. So, and I was like, bro, how are you going to go in there and these guys that are older than you are going to listen to you? Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
So tell me about that, what that was like getting on campus. You're looking at these guys that maybe you even looked up to as a player because they're the best of the best. You know what I'm saying? So I know I would. Talk to me about how you were able to go in there and obviously own that position and be a benefit to them.
Yeah, I mean, that was a journey in of itself, right? You're talking about 23-year-old going into a college program with guys that are relatively close in age, and just like anybody else or any job you get, you have to earn their trust. And I think that was the main thing. I needed to show them that I was there for them, and that everything that I was doing in the weight room is to benefit them. And I think when you gain that trust, the relationships with, those, your players, just exponentially grow. And that was really a really good time frame for me too, because I grew a lot during that. Right. And if it wasn't for, that experience, I don't know if I would have what I have right now. And, that's extremely important, is to, number one, just gain the trust. And when trust is gained, you can do a lot with it, and you can, develop anyone pretty much.
That's right. All right. And so the head, Coach Corbin is one of the finest human beings to ever walk this earth. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
And it's crazy too, because all the folks that are in that program, they walk it's almost like you can find you guys. If there was just a pack of folks, you say they're with Coach, you just know. Mm-hmm. Tell me a couple of the coolest stories in your time there. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. So I would say, just getting into the classroom for the first time and listening to Coach Corbin talk and just talk about the life lessons outside of the game of baseball is one of the coolest things that I'll remember forever, because it showed me that it's much bigger than the game of baseball itself. It's more about the game of life, like I had mentioned, in the past. And then obviously last year winning the SEC tournament down in Hoover was really cool, because that was a moment in time where all the hard work that the guys put in the off season and during the season paid off. Right. And that was a really special moment to see them all celebrate on the field. And then obviously you get to celebrate with, the coaching staff and the support staff as well. It's really, really cool. And I don't take those days for granted, because, not everybody gets to experience those. And when they do happen, you just have to stay present and enjoy them the best you can.
Any other ones?
None that I can think of right now. I mean, obviously
you're still writing them though.
Yeah, exactly. Every day could be a new one. And like you said, writing them. So I'm hoping that I can fill a big old book, with some really good stories. But like I said, I'm just grateful to be in the position and to be able to experience those moments with, some great people inside that program. And obviously to be, mentored and guided by Coach Corbin is, one of a kind. So
no doubt.
The Hitstreak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. check out Rack Financial.
Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, like I said, I appreciate you having me on here. I've been a big time listener and have been following you now for quite some time. And to be able to kind of maybe take a step away from the strength and conditioning side and focus more on just like growth in life, and sometimes reel in how strength and conditioning can play a role in that is really cool. And I'm just glad you gave me the platform to be able to share my experiences and stories, and hopefully, make a big impact on, high school athletes and coaches, around the world. So
no doubt. Well, brother, thanks so much for the hang today and all your time and everything else, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. I had a wonderful time.
Well, folks, we've been hanging with Hunter Reeser, the Vanderbilt University baseball assistant strength and conditioning coach. You can check him out on Instagram at coach.reeser. Ask him about Reeser performance, right? I'd love to know more about that myself for my own child, right? You know what I mean? Oh, he's not a child anymore. For my own growing boy, you know what I mean? And I'm serious about that. I would like to know more about that. But dude, thanks again so much for hanging. It's been an awesome time, man.
I appreciate it, Nick. Thank you very much.
Folks, thanks so much for tuning into another episode of the Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.